Every single person alive has completely lost the first 3 to 4 years of their existence. Not forgotten, erased. And science still cannot fully explain why. You lived an entire life before the age of 3. You opened your eyes, you tasted food, you felt pure terror, you felt absolute love, but it is gone.
Wait, erased? Not forgotten? Exactly. Your baby brain wasn't failing to record your life, it was recording everything. The memories were absolutely there, but something inside your own head actively destroyed them. And honestly, the implications of that are deeply unsettling.
Sigmund Freud actually named this phenomenon back in 1905. He called it infantile amnesia. It is the near-total inability of adults to recall memories from before age 3. Now, it sounds like a simple biological quirk, right? But it's not. It is something fundamentally strange about the human condition.
Think about it. You were a fully conscious, feeling, experiencing human being during those early years. You felt joy, you felt pain, you had real preferences and a distinct personality. Yet, none of it survived. Which begs a heavy philosophical question. If you cannot remember it, did it really happen to you?
Because we know babies form memories. It is a scientific fact. In the 1980s, psychologist Carolyn Ravi Collier tied a ribbon from an infant's ankle to a mobile. The babies learned that kicking moved it. When brought back weeks later, even 6-month-olds remembered and started kicking immediately. The memories exist. So what destroys them?
Okay, so the first part of the answer is structural. The hippocampus is the engine of memory. It encodes a lived experience so you can replay it later. In adults, it works flawlessly. But in infants, the neural circuits are severely underdeveloped. The literal gateways for long-term memory simply aren't wired up yet.
So your brain could form short-term memories, but couldn't lock them into long-term storage. That makes sense. But that is not the strangest part. That is only half the story. In 2014, neuroscientists Chena Jocelyn and Paul Franklin made a discovery that changes everything we thought we knew.
They looked closely at neurogenesis. That's the rapid creation of new brain neurons. In your first years, your hippocampus is producing new neurons at an extraordinary rate. It does this to wire up your lifelong circuits. It is absolutely essential. But Jocelyn and Franklin suspected a massive hidden cost.
It is a terrifying paradox. The exact same process that built your brain physically destroyed your memories in the process. When they artificially boosted neurogenesis in mice, the mice forgot what they had learned. The explosion of new neurons constantly overwrote the old ones. It's exactly like trying to write on a page that keeps being erased faster than you can write.
Biology explains the physical erasure. But is there an even darker reason? This is where it gets truly disturbing. Because biology is only half the equation here. There is another layer to this erasure, and almost nobody talks about what this actually means.
It all comes down to language. Developmental psychologist Catherine Nelson spent years studying this. Her research suggests that words are the skeleton of memory. Before you could speak, your experiences were pure, raw sensory impressions, just light, sound, and emotion. But without words to organize them, those impressions had no narrative framework to hold on to.
Language literally structures how far back our mind reaches. Psychologist Qi Wang at Cornell found that the average age of your first memory depends entirely on your culture. In the Maori culture, with a deep tradition of oral storytelling, memories survive from 2.5 years old. In Western cultures, it's 3.5. In East Asian cultures, it is often 4 or later.
Without language, early experiences are like water without a container. They exist beautifully in the moment, and then they are gone. This means your earliest self lived in a state of pure present moment awareness, a state of intense existence that no adults can ever return to, simply because you had no words to trap the moment.
But those lost moments didn't just vanish into thin air. They left a ghost in your personality. Even though you cannot consciously remember them, those erased years are deeply embedded in your emotional patterns. They shaped your deepest fears. They formed your attachment styles. The years you cannot remember may be the years that shaped you the most.
Which brings us to a frankly horrifying realization. Are you the product of a stranger? You are largely the product of a version of yourself that you have completely lost access to. The absolute foundation of who you are today was built by someone you can never meet, never speak to, and never remember.
This is not really about lost baby memories anymore. This is about the deeply unsettling nature of continuity and identity.
To form an autobiographical memory, where you are the main character of a story, you need to understand that you exist as a distinct person.
Consider the Rouge test, designed by developmental psychologists Mark Howe and Mary Courage. You put a dot of rouge on a baby's nose and place them in front of a mirror. Before 18 months, they think it's another child. But at 18 months, self-recognition is born. They reach for their own face. Before that exact moment, there was no narrator in your head to even claim those experiences as yours.
You share a body, but not a mind. If you had no continuous sense of self, and the brain that held your early experiences literally rewired itself beyond recognition, is the baby in your old photos actually you? The person who experienced your childhood is connected to you biologically, but is a stranger to you mentally. You lived in the same body, but your mind was disassembled and rebuilt neuron by neuron.
Somewhere in the world right now, a small child is having the most intense experiences of their entire life, feeling everything for the very first time with full emotional depth. It is vivid, it is real, and in 20 years, they will remember none of it.
The most vivid chapter of every human life is the one that disappears completely. Your brain was doing something far more important than remembering. It was becoming you. And that required quite literally destroying the person who came before. Think about that the next time you look at a child.